5, verse 4. Not verse 5. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. And then he began to speak, and he taught them, saying, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." May God bless the reading of the Word. I have continued to study Eugene Boring's commentary on the Beatitudes, and it seems most appropriate today to explain his idea about the language in which the Beatitudes are written. And I'm not talking about Greek, I'm talking about the particular tense in which the Beatitudes are written. My friend Sylvia and I were talking yesterday at lunchtime about what we were both going to preach on this morning. And she had asked me if I was planning to preach on the Sermon on the Mount, and I said, "Oh yeah, well I'm doing a series. I'm doing a 10-week series on the Beatitudes." And I gave her the sermon title for today, "Be Blessed Among the Sorrowful." And she asked me why I rephrased the blessing like I did. And I explained that I wanted folks to hear the Beatitudes as invitations to discipleship behavior. Invitations to discipleship behavior. Sylvia affirmed my use of the word invitations, which she liked considerably better than the word that used by Boring, discipleship imperatives. But Boring clearly states that these Beatitudes do not describe 9 different kinds of people who get to go to heaven. They describe how real Christians are to be. They describe how real Christians are to behave. And in Matthew's time, they describe the very real Christians living in Matthew's community of faith, living together in the community of their shared discipleship, what we would refer to as the church in today's world. Boring further explains that the Beatitudes are written in what is called performative language. Performative language. Stating that they do not merely describe something that already is, but they actually bring into being the reality they declare. They actually bring into being the reality they declare. For example, when the umpire calls ball or strike, the ball that was thrown by the pitcher to the batter is in fact what the umpire calls it. No matter how much you, or the player, or the manager, you the fans, argue and disagree with the umpire's call, it is reality. And it will not be taken back. Not only that, if the player and the manager continue to argue about it with the umpire, they may very well be thrown out of the game. That is the authoritative power of performative language. That is the language of these Beatitudes. Here's another example. When the minister declares, "I now pronounce you husband and wife," she has made the marriage covenant binding. The reality of that covenant is declared and cannot be taken back, as she finishes the binding ceremony with the words, "What God has joined together this day, let no one tear asunder." So these Beatitudes are written in this performative language. As they come from the mouth of Jesus, they bring into being the reality they declare. Today, Jesus declares those burdened by grief, sorrows, and regrets, those whose hearts are broken, are blessed, because the kingdom of heaven has now come near, and they will be comforted. For the followers of Jesus, for those who call themselves disciples, for those who intend the behavior expected of the disciples of Jesus, the man of sorrows, the imperative is thus: be blessed among the sorrowful. Be blessed among those who mourn, those who are haunted by regrets, those broken-hearted people, for they will be comforted. And further, be a blessing among the sorrowful. Isn't this the message Jesus read from Isaiah in the synagogue? Don't you remember in Luke's chapter 4, verse 18? He stood in the synagogue, he opened up the scroll of Isaiah, and he said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the oppressed, good news to the poor, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captive and release to the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor, to comfort all who mourn." The mourning of Isaiah's community, the mourning in his day, was the mourning of those who were in exile in Babylon, those too who were the remnant left behind in Israel to starve as an impoverished, destroyed nation. Who are the mourning and the sorrowful, the brokenhearted people listening at the feet of Jesus? The disciples and those who overhear the Sermon on the Mount. Are they people who mourn? Are they people of sorrow? Are they people who are grieving with their spirits broken? Yes. Yes. I touched on it last week. They are oppressed. They are living under the thumb of the Roman occupiers who keep them, the Jews, on a very short leash. They are those taxed into poverty. Their priests are forced to make sacrifices in their temple for the Roman emperor. If they object to the rules imposed upon them, they are simply terrorized into submission, forced to watch as neighbors are brutalized. The disciples of Jesus would be, along with those overhearing the Sermon on the Mount, mourning the oppression of God's people, the helpless state of their poverty and their captivity. Their hearts and their spirits are broken, remembering the once glorious and powerful kingdom that was Israel. I think they are not so sorry for themselves as much as they mourn their broken relationship with God. Jesus has come to restore that relationship. Jesus has come now to reconcile God's people to God once again. Jesus has come now. And we have only to open our hearts and receive the blessing from Jesus, who is the embodiment of the man of sorrows described in Isaiah 53, who is the embodiment of the one who was despised and rejected of men, the man of sorrows, who is acquainted with grief, who surely has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. This one, this Jesus, came anointed with the authority to bind up all the broken-hearted people. And 40 years after Jesus' death, Matthew's community mourns the destruction of the temple. They mourn the devastation of Jerusalem, the loss of the Jewish-Roman war, their failure after 4 years of fighting the legions of Rome to be rid of their oppressors, their occupiers, those who see them as people of lesser nation. They sorrow for their independence. They mourn over their lost freedom. They sorrow over the loss of family and friends. They sorrow over the disintegration of unified Judaism. They sorrow over death and destruction and are a people in despair. Jesus has also come to restore their hearts, to bind their broken hearts with these compelling declarations which he has brought into reality. In your sorrow and in your mourning, you are blessed, for God has come near to comfort you. In the disappointment you experience, you are blessed because today God has come near to console you. Today God has come to you and offers the kingdom of heaven. Today God has come close to love you, to embrace you. God seeks you even in your sorrow. God desires to bring you close, to comfort and console you, to assure you not of material wealth and prosperity, not that things broken will be fully mended and fixed, or will return to the days of former glory, but God who offers to heal your wounds, to comfort you in your sorrow, to hold you while you grieve, with a promise that you will not and do not have to forever bear this pain. These Beatitudes say much the same thing to us today, 2,000 years hence. We worship in community, each of us carrying our own sorrows. But we carry sorrows as a community of faith as well. We receive the blessing and promise that we will not bear this sorrow and this brokenness always. In the Disciples of Christ denomination, they boast a motto: in essentials, unity; in opinions, diversity; in all things, charity. It has been attributed to John Wesley, but he didn't write it. It actually appeared first in the year 1627, and the authorship is given to Rupertus Meldenius. Say that 5 times fast. The essentials are: we proclaim Jesus as Lord, as our Savior, the Savior of our lives. That's the essential. Our opinions, well, they're diverse. We are made up of political conservatives and liberals, yet we are a community of faith. We are made up of people from a variety of church backgrounds, yet we are a community of faith. We are made up of some folks who have very little knowledge of the Bible, and some folks who have quite a bit, yet we are a community of faith. We have people who plan to have knowledge and people who have no intention of pursuing further knowledge, yet we are a community of faith. There are folks who think the church should be this way and those who think the church should be that, yet we are a community of faith. We have folks whose ingrained prejudices they haven't even begun to deal with yet. And there are folks who are well aware of theirs, and yet we are a community of faith. The last part of the motto is the most important of all 3 phrases. In all things, charity. In all things, love. In essentials, unity. In opinions, diversity. In all things, love, charity. This is to say that the bottom line is to behave as the disciples we claim to be. If we allow our tongues to get away from us, we apologize, we must. If we disparage one another, we mourn our failure to love and we ask God's forgiveness. We are aware that the church, and we are the church, has injured and broken the hearts of many people throughout the centuries. And we commit ourselves individually and communally to healing, to comfort all the broken-hearted people, no matter their age, no matter their race, no matter their color, no matter their gender, no matter their sexual orientation, no matter their ability, no matter their socioeconomic condition. condition. This is the blessed behavior of the followers of Jesus Christ. Let us be those who embrace the invitation of these Beatitudes. Let us behave the imperatives of discipleship in all things. Let us act as if we love one another, and perhaps one day we truly will. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. For though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. There will be an answer,